Hey, it's Erin. Another week is in the books for contest prep. I'm currently 3 weeks out from the Sacramento Pro and 7 weeks out from the Olympia. Inevitably, in each one of my preps, I reach a sticking point, and I think this happens to everyone. Progress, when you think about it, is never a linear thing, right? So it has its ups and downs, and this past week was a bit challenging for me in regards to training and the diet. My weight actually went up this week. I was incredibly sore, and I think a lot of that comes from training frequency and training heavy and doing my HIIT. So I actually backed off the volume, lifted 3 times this week, and changed my HIIT. So I was doing quite a bit of uphill treadmill running, changed the HIIT to high intensity, low impact training, which is still a form of HIIT, but can be done on the bike or on the stairs, something where it's less impact. So you're not having that pounding, not having that eccentric force, and that seemed to help. So with the diet, I have my macros here because of course I can never remember them, but I'm at 1980 calories. So last week I was at 2180 and actually dropped both the protein and the carbs. So I'm down 30 grams of protein from 180 to 150, 40 grams of fat, and 20 carbs less. So from 270 down to 250 this week. So I think when you reach a sticking point with prep, it's really important to not change too much, right? So I wanted to bump those calories down because of course progress stalled, went the other way. And with the weight gain, I figured that a lot of that came from the soreness and came from not sleeping as well due to the soreness, due to a bit of overreaching. So typically when you're training hard, you're not recovering, you're in that caloric deficit, you can start overreaching, and if you overreach for too long, that leads to, of course, overtraining, and that not only affects your muscles, but it affects central nervous system. So obviously with contest prep, there is a planned overreach because during that last week going into peak week, the volume of workouts, the intensity of workouts is really just not going to be there. So you really just plan on crushing it, pushing it as hard as possible, and running it till the wheels almost fall off, and then kind of pulling back on the reins from there. At least that's what I do. So weights 3 times this week, all 3 of those training sessions were glutes. Now, it's really important to note that with this week's workout that's going to be in this video, there is no workout that's specifically geared towards fat loss. However, I do really love supersets and heavy supersets for just getting more volume in, a little bit more intensity, and just more calorie burn, because instead of doing 3 or 4 exercises, now I'm doing 6 exercises. So that's kind of the mindset here, is to pick up the pace, to get more volume in. And I've chosen some exercises that I'm working the shortened phase of the muscle. So hip thrusts, for example, are really excellent for doing a ton of volume and not creating a lot of soreness, because you're training the muscle in the shortened position. Whereas if you're doing a ton of squats, a ton of RDLs, you're actually, that mid-rep point is training the muscle in the lengthened position, and that can lead to more muscle soreness overall. So trying to be a little bit smarter with the planning of the exercises to where I can still get that volume in, keep my intensity up, and not overtax myself and end up looking like a zombie when it comes stage time. So when I weighed in this morning, I was at 131.8. So the weight has come down another pound, which is awesome, especially after it went up. So the adjustments are working. Progress pictures show just a little bit more leanness, and that's all we can hope for from week to week. So very, very excited about that. Again, back to high intensity, low impact training, still 2 times a week. Weights this week was 3 times, and I'm still getting my steps in. So on the days where I didn't train, I was trying to get closer to 15,000 steps. And again, still relying on my trusty Fitbit to do that. And with those steps, it's really important to note that this is not cardio per se. So I'm not on a treadmill doing this. I'm out and about and walking at a reasonable pace. So I'm not, power walking. I am just out walking, getting steps in, and even taking breaks from my desk and just going and getting outside. So I think that covers all of the updates. Without further ado, let's get in the gym and do some supersets. Let's get into this workout. So for this workout, we're going to be doing supersets. See, I've got the dumbbell off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and do my hip thrusts, doing 4 sets here. So 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps, and then I'm going to go straight to goblet squats. Now for the hip thrust, you want to make sure that your chin is tucked and weight is through the heels. Feet can be about shoulder width apart, but you want to make sure that your shin is perpendicular to the floor when you reach that mid-rep point. And really think about squeezing those glutes at that mid-rep point also. Tucking the chin is going to help a lot. If you allow your head to kind of fall back, then you can overextend and not really get the same benefits, and it can in fact harm your lower back. So what I'm doing is on the way up, I'm extending my arms and really just making sure to lock out. Nice and slow on that negative, going straight into goblet squats. Now here, I'm going to do 10 to 12 reps. I'm very winded. This is going to be a weight workout with a little bit of cardio mixed in. But I love combining these compound movements. And for me, it really helps to accelerate fat loss, which is what I'm trying to do here. Now the goal is not to go as quickly as possible. You want to go nice and slow, keep that tempo nice and steady. I'm still focusing on that negative or eccentric. Weight is pushed to the heels. Feet are about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit wider. I'm holding that dumbbell right at my collarbone, keeping my back nice and flat. Exhaling on the way up, really focusing on moving the weight with just my glutes. I'm going to take about a minute to a minute and a half in between. Now at the end of these supersets, I went ahead and did a drop set for hip thrusts. So I'm at 225 here. I was at 315 for working sets, and I'm just going to rep out as many reps as possible. And when you do an AMRAP or a burnout set towards the end, really focus on keeping that tempo the same, so you don't want to rush through it. You don't want to start recruiting other muscles. You want to really focus on using the glutes here. So chin stays tucked. You want to get that full extension here, so really squeeze at the top. And I think I got 15. I went ahead and just put the whole clip in here so you can see how much fun we have on a burnout set. So I don't do these all the time, but I felt like I needed a little extra volume. So I just went ahead and threw it in at the end. Hip thrusts are excellent for extra volume because you're training the muscle in that shortened position. All right, moving into that next superset, we're gonna do a deficit straight leg deadlift. So I'm standing on a plate here, 135 pounds, and I'm making sure that I touch the barbell at the bottom, knees slightly bent, back stays flat. So look at your mobility, and if you have enough mobility, then do the deficit straight leg deadlift. If you don't have the mobility, don't worry, just don't use the plate there. This is really important because we want to use proper form. So here are 3 sets of 8 to 10, and I still have my trusty dumbbell next to the barbell. So I'm going to go straight from straight leg deadlifts to a dumbbell sumo deadlift. So again, nice and slow on that negative, really focusing on using glutes and hamstrings. All right, so we're moving on to that sumo deadlift. I love this exercise, and if you have long femurs and a shorter torso like me, you will probably love this too. I use the weight not only for resistance, but also for counterbalance. So I typically will hold that dumbbell just in front of me, and this helps me keep my upper body a little bit taller than I would ordinarily. So feet are about 2 times shoulder width, pushing the weight through the heels.
Toes are out slightly here, so knees are gonna stay out. Now on this wider stance, really make sure that you're pushing your knees out actively. Back stays nice and flat. And I roll my shoulders forward just a little bit, especially at the top, because I like to try to get a little extra squeeze. So I'm kind of tucking my pelvis under. Going to do 10 to 12 reps here. Now in between each superset, I'm taking about 1.5 minutes. All right, we're gonna move into weighted walking lunges. I think the hardest part for me for this exercise was cleaning and overhead pressing that bar. So we're just gonna go ahead and walk it out all the way to the end. I like to take big, long steps. Now, if you can take longer steps with this, this is excellent for recruiting the glutes. So nice long steps. Make sure you keep your knees out here. You don't want that knee to cave in. And using that bar is really excellent because you don't have momentum. You're not worrying about swinging dumbbells. Probably easier if you can find a place where you can just rack the bar at the end. But here we are. You can also do a dumbbell holding that in a goblet position, but typically your arms will tend to fatigue and there's more chance of leaning forward. So here you can stand a bit more upright. There's really no cheating. Long steps, and then try to keep track. I did 12 down, 12 on the way back, 3 sets total. So I'm going to superset this with seated banded abductors. So get your mini band, and for this particular exercise, I'm going to go ahead and lean forward. But you can also sit upright, you can lean back, and I really like to vary the position of my upper body because I find that it hits the upper glutes differently with each position. So I'm taking a wide stance here. So feet are about 1.5 times shoulder width. So you not only get some abduction, you get some external rotation too, which is excellent for upper glute development. I'm gonna do 30 reps here and really focusing on keeping that constant tension. So you do allow your knees to come in, push your knees out, but always keep tension on that band. And after those lunges, you'll probably be pretty winded, and that's okay. You just push right through it. And so even though the workout is faster paced, the tempo of each rep is still nice and slow. Still going as heavy as I can, even with the minimum recovery. All right, so we're gonna add some posing in this week. And this week I'm working on holding the poses more, working on those transitions, and actually getting very excited because I'm feeling a lot more confident with the posing. Gotten some good feedback on tweaking that back pose and tweaking my front pose. So now I'm working on posing here without the mirror. It's really important that as you get closer to stage, that you don't use the mirror for feedback. And that's pretty obvious if you think about it because you're not gonna have a mirror when you're on stage. So just going through the little details, making sure that it is now muscle memory, and yeah, we're getting ready.
So that was the workout. I did want to talk a little bit about mindset because I think it's important to talk through what goes through a competitor's head from week to week. And it is a bit of a roller coaster. And there's a saying, trust the process. And I think that does come into play because if you are tracking everything, you are getting enough sleep, you're putting the work in, that yes, things will fall into place. But for me, some days I wake up and I feel like I'm shredded, I'm on track. I had a couple of days this past week where, gosh, I woke up and I didn't even recognize myself. And it's only a few pounds difference, but it really can wreak havoc on I guess your confidence levels and your mindset and your preparedness kind of going into the contest, and you can't let it. So as many years as I have been competing, I still have those ups and downs, and when I have down days, I push through them, and I understand that it will get better, but you have to both push yourself and take care of yourself, and also understand again that that progress is never a linear thing. So with all of the data that you're collecting, if you are doing a contest or if you are working towards leaning down, it's important to assess the data, make small changes, and maybe change one or two things, but don't get in there and change everything all at once, because if that works, you really won't know what it was that you did or tweaked to make everything work and go in your favor. So hopefully that helps. And of course, if there's anything you want to see, please let me know in the comments below and I'll make it happen. If you made it this far, you're the best. I love you. I hope that your training is going well, and if you're prepping, I hope your prep is going amazing. That's it for this week. Until next time, train smart and train hard, y'all. Mwah!